start, Saskia. So hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for our live talk session on trans education and inclusion in the music industry. For those who haven't joined a live talks before, my name is Gabby. I'm the head of partnerships at Live, which is the voice of the UK's live music and entertainment business, representing thousands of businesses, artists and backstage workers. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white female with brown eyes, blondish hair, and I'm wearing a blue and white striped shirt with gold jewelry. Our Live Talks programme is a series of free online workshops and talks which focus on equality, diversity, inclusion, sustainability and well-being, and are aimed at making the UK live music industry a more inclusive and positive place to work. Just let these four people in. Right. Before I hand it over to today's wonderful host, Saskhia Menendez, I just need to go through a quick bit of housekeeping. So please note we are recording today's session to share online for those unable to join. If you would rather remain anonymous, please feel free to keep your camera turned off and change your Zoom name to anonymous. We've had 250 signups for this session, so please make sure your mic is muted throughout to avoid interference. If we have some time left at the end, we will open up the floor to questions, but please also feel free to put any questions you have into the Zoom chat and we will do our best to answer them at the end. All resources that Saskia shares throughout the presentation will be made available via the Live website, so I'd encourage everyone to make use of those and share them with fellow colleagues or friends who aren't here today. And that's it from me. So thank you, Saskia, for putting today's session together. I hope everyone can take something away from today that will help move the dial towards a more inclusive industry for all. Over to you, Saskia.
Oh, thank you so much, Gabby. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on trans education and inclusion in the music industry. I'm Saskia, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm an equality and diversity ambassador, researcher, public speaker, social change activist, innovator, and mentor. My aim is to help diversify the music industry landscape, as well as improve representation, access, and help educate and inform others of the barriers and issues underrepresented and disadvantaged communities face. I'm a multiracial trans woman who transitioned 12 years ago. I'm also a parent of 2 children and have over 10 years experience in the music and entertainment industry. Today is International Transgender Day of Visibility. Thank you so much for coming along today to learn more about trans issues and barriers that we face when accessing the music industry. And today's agenda will cover the following topics: what it means to be transgender, terminology and definitions, real lived experiences, allyship and resources. Transgender musicians have been making significant contributions to the music industry for decades. Although their visibility and representation through the mainstream has been limited over the years, there have been several influential transgender musicians who have challenged the norms to pave the way for greater acceptance and representation of transgender people in music. In 2018, GLAAD released a report on LGBT representation in the music industry. The report found that the 40 songs topped in the Billboard 100 chart that year, none were openly performed by LGBTQ artists. This highlights a significant lack of representation for LGBTQ artists in the mainstream music industry. Additionally, the Musicians Union in 2018 found that 71% of transgender musicians had experienced discrimination, harassment in the music industry. Now, this discrimination took many forms, including being misgendered, excluded from opportunities, and experiencing verbal and physical abuse. Despite these challenges, there have been some notable strides towards greater gender representation and visibility of transgender musicians in recent years. For example, in 2020, singer-songwriter Shea Diamond became the first transgender woman to perform on the BET award stage. And in 2021, transgender rapper and singer Dawn made her television debut on The Late Show James Corden. Transgender is an umbrella term used to describe people whose gender identity or gender expression do not align with the sex that they were assigned at birth. In other words, a transgender person may identify as a gender different from the one they were assigned at their biological birth. Under the umbrella term, you have both binary, which is male and female, and these trans people would identify as either trans men or trans women. You also have non-binary. Non-binary is a gender identity that falls outside of the traditional binary concepts of male and female. Non-binary individuals may identify as neither exclusively male nor exclusively female, or a combination of both, or as a gender completely outside of the binary of male and female. Non-binary people may choose to express their gender in various ways, such as through clothing, hairstyles, pronouns, and other gender markers. Some non-binary people may also choose to undergo medical or surgical procedures to alter their physical appearance to better align with their gender identity. It's important to recognize and respect the gender identity of non-binary individuals, as well as their preferred pronouns and other forms of gender expression. Here we have some trans identities. So at the top of the page, we have a trans man. So his pronouns would be he and him. Then we have a transgender woman. Their pronouns would be she and her. And then we have a non-binary person whose pronouns may be they, them, they, him, they, her, sie, ze, they, and he, and her. Also, it's important to understand that non-binary individuals can also identify as asexual, genderqueer, demisexual, bigender, and more. Here's several identities that do not fall under the trans umbrella. So we have drag acts and performers. However, some do go on to transition later on. We have intersex individuals. I will come to the definition of what that means a little bit later on. We have cross-dressers who dress for fun. However, some do go and transition later on. And then we have cisgender people who are straight men and straight women. So, gender identity is an individual's internal sense of gender, which is not necessarily visible to others. A person whose internal gender does not match their sex that they were assigned at birth. The sex isn't on their birth certificate, is a transgender individual. Most people are male or female, but other gender identities fall somewhere in between, i.e. genderqueer or non-binary. Sexual orientation is a person's physical, romantic, or emotional attraction to another person. This is a distinct characteristic and is not dictated by gender identity. A transgender person may be straight, lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Sexual orientation includes heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, asexual, pansexual, and many other identities. Gender expression, however, is how someone may choose to express their gender identity. This might be through pronouns, clothing, other physical and behavioral characteristics based on traditional gender roles. That's masculine, feminine, androgynous, and transgender people often match their gender expression to the gender identity instead of their assigned sex at birth. So your biological sex is the sex that you were born at birth, and you have reproductive organs, and that is what your biological birth means. It's also important to recognize that sexual orientation and gender identity are not the same. Transgender transition refers to the process that a transgender individual goes through to live as their true gender identity, which may not match the gender they were assigned at birth. Transgender transition can include a variety of steps, such as a social transition, which is with family, friends, and work, a legal transition, which is your DPOL, gender recognition, and that obviously takes a couple of years to get, and then hormone transition, which is taking cross-sex hormones, and that normally takes between 2 to 3 years to complete. You also have a surgical transition, which involves surgical procedures and treatments, but it's also important to note that not all transgender individuals choose to or can afford to undergo all aspects of transition. A transition is a personal journey, and the steps taken may vary from person to person. So here I want to look at some statistics in England and Wales. In 2021, the UK government carried out the 2021 census, and for the first time ever, was recorded, is your gender identity different from your registered birth? Out of the UK population, 45.7 million people, that's 94% of the UK population, answered the question 16 years or above. Out of that, 262,000, which is 1 in 200 of the population, said yes. However, this could be slightly higher due to the fear of disclosure and political and other issues. So if we break that down further for England and Wales, that means there's 60% non-binary or people with different gender identities, and 40% is then broken down further between trans men and women. So we have approximately 48,000 trans men in England and Wales, 48,000 trans women, and 166,000 non-binary people. There is some statistics for Wales, for Scotland and for Ireland. However, we don't have those statistics available for now. Then we look further at the LGBTQ population in England and Wales. And Brighton and Hove had the largest local LGBTQ authority at 10.7% of the UK population. London was the largest local authority in terms of registered sex, different from registered sex at 0.91%, with the Southwest being the lowest at 0.42% of the UK population. London had the highest population of both trans men and women, both at 0.16%. So if we added that up together, that would be 0.32% of the UK trans population live in London. However, some smaller surveys have estimated that around 2% of the general population could be trans. And again, some people would not disclose due to fear, discrimination, or other political issues. There's also been some research taken around the world to find out some of the statistics of the transgender population worldwide. A global survey carried out in 2021 by Statistica in 27 different countries. 2% of respondents identified themselves as trans, non-binary, or gender fluid. Germany and Sweden actually were slightly higher at 3% of their population. Also, in some research carried out by the Williams Institute in the USA, nearly 1 in 5 people who identified as transgender were aged between the ages of 13 to 17 years old. They also state that around 1.6 million people of the US population identified as transgender. When they break this down further, they had 1.3 million adults and 300,000 youths. And when they broke that down again, that came to 39% are trans women, 36% are trans men, and 25% are non-binary. So if we compared that to the UK stats, you can actually see that the non-binary population in the UK was at 60%, which is actually a lot higher than the trans men and women. However, when we compared that to the US, we can see that there's actually more trans women and trans men in the US than there are non-binary, which I found quite interesting. So now we're going to cover some terminologies around being transgender and what some of these terminologies mean. The power of language can help change our perceptions and shape, and also that the power of language to shape our perceptions of other people is immense. Precise use of terms in regards to gender can have a significant impact on demystifying many of the misconceptions associated with gender. Language is constantly changing. Whilst these definitions are not comprehensive, they will offer a better understanding and allow for further dialogue and exploration. So what does transgender actually mean? So transgender is used both as an umbrella term and as an identity. It can refer to those who do not identify with or not happy with their assigned gender and gender roles. As an identity, it refers to anyone who transgresses the traditional sex and gender boxes. A transition is a process a transgender individual goes through or strives to have a physical presentation that's more closely aligned with their gender. This is a medical process that involves taking cross-sex hormones. However, some people decide to take the hormones and not have surgery. What does FTM mean? FTM is someone who was born female at birth who now identifies as male. And what does MTF mean? MTF is also an abbreviated word, which is someone who was born male at birth, who now identifies as female. Gender dysphoria is a persistent discomfort with one's assigned sex or a sense of belonging to another sex and the desire to be of that opposite sex. Non-binary is someone who feels that their gender identity cannot be defined within the margins of gender binary. Instead, they understand their gender in a way that goes simply beyond identifying as a man or a woman. Trans is a really broad umbrella term. In general, it refers to anyone who isn't cis. We went through what cis means earlier. So cis is someone whose assigned birth corresponds to their gender identity and expression. Transsexual is someone who has received a diagnosis of gender identity disorder or transsexualism. That often comes from a psychiatrist, and those that are seeking hormone treatment and or surgery. Gender identity is one's innermost concept of themselves as male or female or both or neither. This conviction is not contingent on the individual's biological sex. Queer is not heterosexual. It was originally used with negative connotations, but is currently being reclaimed by many in the LGBTQ community. It's sometimes used as an umbrella term for anyone who's not heterosexual. Intersex is someone who's having hormones, chromosomes, and any primary sex characteristics, including genitalia and or internal sex organs that are different from what is typically biologically male or female. So here's some well-known transgender faces. I just wanted to see how many of the audience know any of these faces. So if you want to either call them out or leave them in the chat, we can see how many of these faces you actually do know. It'd be interesting to find out. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to just go through the faces and see how many of these we can name. So we've got Sam, Sophie, and Kim. Yeah, oh, amazing. Yeah, Sam and Sophie. Sophie and Sam. Yeah, rest in peace, Sophie. She was amazing. Ryan, yeah, we've got Ryan on there as well. Well done. Satine, yes, we've got Satine. We've just got one more to name then, unless I've missed it already. Well done, guys. I'm really impressed. We're just looking for one more down on the bottom corner here. Does anyone know who this artist is? She's fantastic. She's from America. In case none of you know, her name is Shea Diamond. She was on the BET Awards. Well done, everyone. I'm really pleased that you know all these faces. Thank you. These are just a few of the examples of many of the transgender musicians who have made significant contributions to the music industry. Their work has helped challenge gender norms and promote greater acceptance and visibility of trans people in society. However, despite these positive developments, trans people continue to face significant challenges in media representation. Negative stereotypes and harmful tropes persist in some media. Whilst trans people continue to be subject to misgendering or denamed, using the wrong name or pronouns in news reports and other forms of media. So if we actually look at some media representation for trans people, almost 3/4 of all respondents in an Involved survey taken part in 2022 said that depictions of the trans community in the news and press have been negative or highly negative. Then looking at the levels of underrepresentation for the LGBT community, 80.3% of the LGBT community said that there was a serious lack of representation for trans people in the media. Overall, while there is still much progress to be made, transgender musicians are increasingly making their mark in the music industry and changing the gender norms in the process. However, in recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the importance of accurate and positive representation for trans people in the media. This has led to an increase in the number of transgender characters and actors in film and television, as well as a greater representation of trans people in news media and other forms of journalism. However, the music industry is still making progress in this area, Compared to fashion, journalism, TV, the music industry has the least visible representation across the board. Transgender musicians face a range of challenges in the music industry, including discrimination, harassment, and limited representation. Here are some of the main problems that transgender musicians face. Discrimination and harassment. Transgender musicians may face discrimination and harassment from peers, industry professionals, and audiences. This can take shape in many forms, including being misgendered, excluded from opportunities, and experiencing verbal and physical abuse. Limited representation. Transgender musicians have historically been underrepresented in the music industry, and it can make it very difficult to gain visibility or recognition. Limited access to healthcare. Transgender musicians may face barriers to accessing gender-affirming healthcare, which can also make it difficult for them to actually get up on stage, feel confident, and perform. Financial challenges. Like many musicians, transgender musicians may struggle with financial instability and a lack of access to resources. This can be particularly challenging for transgender musicians who face discrimination already and limited representation. And there's also safety concerns, because transgender musicians may face safety concerns when performing or touring, particularly in areas with high rates of transphobic violence. So here, if we look at intersectionality, we can look at different bits and pieces here. So let's have a look. We're going to look at various intersections of being trans, as well as some of the other issues surrounding diversity and inclusion in the music industry. Trans individuals can be Black, Asian, women, neurodiverse, and even be parents. So it's important to understand that the trans community often sits in various intersections. Here are some facts and figures that will help you understand better some of the issues that we face in the music industry. 95% of all global orchestras were men in 2020 and 2021. It's estimated that globally, there are only around 22% female artists, 13% songwriters, and only 3% producers, which is actually really shocking and really low. So if you can imagine being a trans woman in the music industry and having to face these additional barriers, you can see how much of a struggle it really is. It also, if we look exclusively at the top 12 artists billed on each of the large 8 multi-genre US festivals, only 25% of those were women or non-binary. In the UK Music Diversity Report 2022, the survey showed that parents and carers are underrepresented in the music industry, at only 29.7% compared to the average of 44% of the working population. Another report in Women in Radio showed that 39% of women felt unsafe at work. Another report from Black Lives in Music showed that 76% of Black music professionals said they had to forge their own career path because of a lack of opportunities and support in the industry. And another shocking fact is last year in 2022, only 13% of all UK headliner acts were female. So if you can see the issues that we have around diversity and inclusion already in the industry and feeling safe and discrimination, most trans women who fit into all these intersections have so many other different barriers they have to face and overcome too. So now we're going to watch 3 videos from personal experiences of trans people and their issues and barriers that they have had to face and overcome. First one is from Hunting Hearts, which is a trans band based in the UK. Then we have Laura Nakdahal, who's an international male to female tour manager from Holland. And then we have a non-binary person of colour from the UK, Andela Shooks. Just gonna have to have this one. Onto this one.
I'm Devin. My pronouns are he, him. I am the bassist and backing vocalist for Hunting Hearts, but I'm generally a multi-instrumentalist. I like playing drums. I'm currently a director of a not-for-profit community events venue and centre called the Art House in Southampton, which is where we're from. But I'm leaving soon to go to make instruments at West Dean College, yeah.
Saskia, the video.
My pronouns are they, them.
Can you say that again, Gabby? Sorry.
The video's not come up for us.
Oh, it hasn't. Sorry.
Also from the instrumentalist. I'm the lead singer and rhythm guitarist of Hunting Hearts.
There we go.
I do lots of music stuff. I'm currently a choir teacher for Sweet Charity Choir in Southend, Dorset and Southampton. I compose sometimes for film. I write music whenever I can, basically, is what I do.
Amazing. What amazing talent you have. So would you like to talk a little bit about the community you represent and kind of some of the barriers and obstacles that you've had to overcome in being an artist in the music industry?
I can't, when I talk about like what we're representing in general, I say that we are a trans band. Yeah. But personally, as a musician, in the rest of my life, I am trying to kind of represent non-binary people and also to a sort of like extra effect, specifically fat non-binary people and fat trans people, because, you know, there's such an emphasis on image, both in the industry and also in our community, that I think it's so important to like be here, be fat, take up space, and, you know, not shut up about.
Be you and love you for who you are. I think that's amazing. And that's really nice of you. And well done for promoting non-binary, because I think there's not enough awareness around being non-binary today. And there's a lot of confusion. So I think by having people like yourselves in these positions, educating, inspiring, and just there kind of explaining to others what it's like to be different and those challenges that different people face in communities. So well done for that, Beck. That's really inspirational. And what about you, Devin?
I think for me, I definitely felt like I didn't belong in the music scene, even though I've been helping run this venue for like years and booking bands and stuff. I felt like I wasn't good enough, but I think also when I was younger, feeling so out of place, and also like essentially music was a guy's thing, right? Even though I knew that I was a man then, obviously I wasn't seen as such. And I think I also expected that it would be a lot more kind of misogynistic and unwelcoming, but I found, at least in Southampton, the music scene has been totally like cool and open and really supportive of what we do, but of each other as well. Yeah.
Great.
Like, sure, there's lots of dudes, but they're nice dudes.
Yeah. Exactly.
And again, like being trans in the music industry, that must come with a lot of different challenges. So like, as you've transitioned, have you found that you've got a lot more confident in your body and you're able to do more because of the transition and the way you feel about yourself?
Oh yeah, I would not be on stage otherwise. Yeah, I've been really lucky with my transition. Yeah. And I recognize that and I appreciate it, but also, you know, I could be stealth, right? But I don't, like, I'm a trans person and I like that identity in me. It's my history. And I also, I want to use the good fortune that I've had in like being accepted by my family and I accessed my transition when the wait list was, like a year long, but it was just a year long.
Yeah.
So hard for people that, I'll always be part of the community and I'll always stand up. Like something that I do on purpose, especially like at Pride, is perform so that people can see my mastectomy, my chest reconstruction scars. And we've actually had feedback about like how this has helped people, like helped parents
and young kids.
Yeah, see that, that's the other end of the tunnel, I guess, because I think a lot of people, and it's, their own prerogative to do it, but once they like have surgeries and transition in that kind of A to B way, at the other end they're kind of like, okay, I'm done now, and that's that's for them to decide. But yeah, for me, this is what I do.
I think it's amazing. And like we were saying earlier on, I think, again, it's about, because the music's such a sociable business and it's about meeting people and social media and image, I think this is another problem that our communities face is if you're feeling dysphoric about yourself and you're not feeling comfortable, then that hinders you being able to get out and socialize and get out there and network and get out there and put your face on different platforms on social media, because we struggle with that, you know. And I think it's a journey, and by explaining that to certain people in the industry, maybe that will help them understand some of the reasons why there aren't as many of us as there should be, you know. Because I think there are, like you said, there are people paving the way like we all are now, but there's just not enough of us and we're not very visible, you know. So I think it's about collaboration.
And there's another big thing. There's, you know, there are, like, in terms of sexuality now, we have a lot of artists that are coming out as bi, there are people coming out as non-binary, but what's happening is they are achieving a level of success under the guise of being heteronormative. I'm not knocking it. I think it's really great that they're coming out, but I think there are people achieving you know, industry standard success under a guise of being heteronormative, cisnormative, and then it's really obvious that, like, they need that security before they feel able to come out.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that that's really sad. I think that it's difficult for people to start their career off on this. I guess people kind of consider it a back foot. It shouldn't be, but, like, yeah, so it's really helpful when, like, people who are already famous are coming out, but it's also really important to sort of have people who feel safe enough and are confident enough to start from a place of being open about their gender and their sexuality and things like that.
I'm sure that it must be so difficult as well, especially, I would say especially gender, but, like, for any reason to come out as anything other than cisgender and heterosexual, that you worry that you'd lose your fans. But I guess for us, at least, we know that the people that we're cultivating from the very beginning know who we are, and you know, that's,
and we love you for you. And I think that's extremely important. And again, it's about representation, isn't it? And it's about having younger generations to look up to and aspire to be like somebody who they identify with. And I think, again, like you said, there's parents that appreciate what you do and there's children that appreciate what you do. And it's very empowering for people that are struggling, you know. And I think it's something we need to do more of because it saves lives. And this is another important fact. I've lost friends along the way, and I'm sure you know people that have had a lot of struggles with transition and acceptance. And it really can be detrimental to their mental health and their confidence. And this is such a shame, but I think the more we see people like yourselves getting up there, doing what you do, it's very inspirational and inspiring. And just telling your story as well, like, it's amazing what you're both doing. And I take my hat off to both of you. So well done for that. Thank you. We're going to go on to the next video now. So this one is from Laura, and she's from
before, but it's still being done. The abuse with take.
Okay.
I'm based in the Netherlands, and I've been a full-time guitar technician tour manager since 2002.
Amazing.
Minus, there was this thing the last 2 years, not much work. Yeah. And in 2016, I finally came to terms with myself and learned to accept myself for who I am. An amazing woman, rather than a reluctant and not quite there, for lack of a better description, man.
Individual. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's very inspirational. So tell us a little bit more about that and how that's kind of impacted you as a person and kind of some of the barriers that that's brought along with it and the challenges that you faced.
The barriers prior to accepting myself were, I wasn't there. I was in the room. I traveled all the world. I toured. Everybody liked what I did.
Yeah,
but I was never there. I kept saying that if there was a lineup of a robot, a zombie, a corpse, and me, you could not, with 100% certainty, say, no, that's the live one.
Yeah.
You just couldn't, because I wasn't there. I was literally just going through the motions. If you would ask me, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this? I would just come up with rules and laws and regulations. Well, this is how it is.
Yeah.
There was no Laura to feel or say or express. And yeah, that's been my biggest barrier prior to coming out, to accepting myself. And I should actually say, yeah, accepting myself, because the coming out is
that is now.
It's almost a bit of a charade for the outside, for them to make sense of who we are rather than the other way around.
Yes, definitely.
But I've learned to accept myself in 2016. And in 2017, I invited the rest of the world in by saying, hey, welcome to the actual me.
Well done.
Since then, I've started taking up a lot more emotional footprint. I went from 0.3, because smaller just wasn't possible, to a very healthy, I should say, 1.4. Now when I enter the room, people will be like, oh, yeah, Laura's here. We know. And that's good. Maybe I'm still trying to find my way in between, but maybe 1.1 is fine. 1.4 is where I'm comfortable at. So the world will deal with me in the 1.4 version.
Yeah.
It has definitely started raising other barriers that were not there before.
Right.
Sexism on the work floor, pay gap, employability.
Yeah.
Before, I was never once asked for my resume. Not once. And especially in 2019, when I first officially started shopping for new bands, as Laura, all but one asked, so, okay, yeah, thanks for your input, but do you have a resume?
Right.
And most of them did not even bother contacting me since. I chased up with them a few times, like, hey, you're still looking, right? I'm still available for all your shows, and my resume meets your requirements. Are you still interested? No, we're still looking.
That is very interesting you said that as well, actually, because I feel in the same situation as you do, from being on one end of the spectrum and going to the complete other end. I actually feel that a lot. I think a lot of people don't realise that there is a lot more challenges and barriers as a woman in the industry. And I think as an underrepresented trans woman on top of that is kind of an additional barrier on top of being a woman. And I've always felt that I've had to prove myself 150%, if not 200%, all of the time. You know, it's a great point you made.
Yeah, and before, if I would ever need to ask, hey, do you have a job for me? Before I'd finished my ask, the confirmation was already given.
Yeah.
And that completely evaporated. Going from on average about 200 shows a year in 2019, including travel days, I hit 39.
Wow, that's a massive drop, isn't it?
It was just over 20 shows. That's 10% of what I'm used to doing, and that's horrible. And of course, part of me thinks and knows it's because of being transgender, but I'm not going to say or think that's what makes me special. It's just the fact that I'm a woman.
Yeah.
In an industry that's still very explicitly patriarchal and misogynist. The type of jokes that are still being made, much less than before, but it's still being done. The abuse women take, the automatic assumptions that are being made when a woman is in the crew or on the tour bus. Who do you sleep with? Whose partner are you?
Yeah.
There is not the same departure point that men and women start from in this industry. And it's changing for the better. Now I could be on cruise. Like in fall, I'm going to be on a 20-person crew.
Wow.
There's 4 women.
That's not a lot, is it?
It's 3 more than I'm used to. And it's good, it's better, but it used to be there would be 1. So it's changing, but it's the point of departure needs to it needs to change. The playing field needs to be explicitly leveled so that the equity changes for the better. And
now we're going to go on to the last one. So I hope this gives you a little good idea of all the different issues and barriers that people face. Next one. So much. Do you want to tell viewers who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
So I'm Angela Suggs. I'm an artist from Islington, North London. I rap, sing a little bit. I have produced, but I'm not currently producing. Yeah, I just bring vibes.
That's good. So kind of, how long have you been doing this? Like, has it been a long journey? How long have you been doing music?
I've been doing music since I was 9 years old. I've been doing it for about over 10 years. And it's definitely been a journey in terms of my sound, how that's progressed over the years, the type of music I started doing compared to the type of music I do now. Just the overall character building that comes with being a music artist.
And as being a music artist, do you want to tell the viewers a little bit more about how you identify and what you kind of do in the music industry and kind of what you represent?
So I identify as non-binary.
Yeah.
I represent the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
And I'm transmasc. For those who don't know what transmasc is, it basically means being more in touch with my masculine side as opposed to my feminine side. As you can see, I go to the barbers.
Good.
I wear men's clothing. Just carry myself how I carry myself, to be fair. I don't like to give myself labels, but it helps to some degree in society to help people better understand who you are.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's really inspirational. We don't get many artists like yourself on the show. So it's good to kind of have a broad range of people representing different kind of communities across the industry. And on top of that, you're also identified as a Black non-binary artist. So again, that has extra challenges and extra kind of things that come with it. So tell us a little bit more about the kind of challenges that you've had to face and barriers you've overcome in that 10-year period.
So I'd say barriers that I've had to face or being accepted is one of them. What you tend to find being an artist such as myself is that when people don't understand you and they don't know how to approach you, it makes it harder for them to take in your music, and to accept, the topics that you may talk about. For example, talking about women is something that is seen in the industry as something that men predominantly do. So coming from a different perspective, it can rub people the wrong way. Sometimes it may put people off just simply, I don't know, accepting your music, the topics that you cover, how you carry yourself, because they're so used to things being one way. But how I've managed to overcome that, I'd say pretty much just being myself. I think that's something that everyone should continue to strive to do. Like, do not change yourself for anybody. I know it gets tough sometimes being in such a niche demographic. You find that, people, like, how do I explain it? It's like going to do an open mic, for example, and you're performing in front of a crowd and you have predominantly heterosexual acts. And then they see you come on stage, and one of the first questions that may come in someone's head is that a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
They just, as opposed to listening to the music and the message that you're delivering, essentially. But just having to always remind myself that I've been given a gift, and it's down to me to use that gift in the best way possible. And you're not here to be liked by everybody, but the people that do like you and do love you and what you do, it will show. And in a show of, say, 50 people, there will be at least one person who loves what you do. So that is what will continue to push you further.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that advice. And kind of, how have you navigated your way around? Because like you said, you do many different things in the industry. So do you find that by doing different things, it kind of gives you a competitive advantage? Or do you find that it's better to kind of keep things together because you kind of are more in control? How does that kind of operate?
I'd say, how would I answer that? In terms of navigating in the industry, knowing that you have a diverse skill set is always beneficial for you as an artist, regardless of how you identify.
Yeah.
But being non-binary, it's like you already have to overcome that as an obstacle, because it's like getting people to understand that and then getting them to understand your music and vibing with you as a person. So I'd say in terms of how I've navigated it, I don't back down. Any opportunity that comes my way, I'm all for it. I'm not too fussed about what like other people are doing and how other people are navigating their career and their path, because I'm a very strong believer of what's for me will always be for me. And
there we go. That's 3 different experiences from different people in the industry, which just gives you a broader idea rather than just talking about myself and my own experiences. I thought it'd be good to share other people's as well as my own. So there we go. So next slide. So now we're going to talk about allyship. So allyship refers to an act of supporting and advocating for marginalised and underrepresented groups, typically by a person who is not a member of that group themselves. An ally is someone who recognises the systemic and institutionalised justices that exist and actively work to address those injustices, often by challenging their own biases and privilege and by amplifying the voices of those who are marginalised. Allyship is an important tool for achieving equality and promoting diversity and inclusivity. Allyship can take many forms, including educating yourself about the experiences of marginalised groups, speaking out about injustices, and actively supporting and amplifying those voices who are marginalised. So how can you help? Not by using transphobic words such as tranny, ladyboy, or butch. If you're not sure, just ask someone what their pronouns are. Show your support and offer opportunities to the trans community. We are here. And remember, no matter how someone identifies their gender, they might still identify as any sexuality. Everyone has a sexual and a gender identity. They are separate and distinct from each other. Never ask someone's real name. This implies that your chosen name is invalid or not real, in the same way of asking someone what their real gender is disrespects their own gender identity. If someone discloses to you that they are transitioning, then they trust you. make sure you honour that trust by checking in with them before disclosing to anyone else. I also want to have a look at another two amazing organisations that have been great allies for the trans community. First is Key Change, which is a fantastic international organisation based across the UK, Europe and Canada. It's been a fantastic ally for women and trans musicians and innovators alike. It aims to tackle gender underrepresentation across the board. It offers a range of services which include Tuesday Tips, Friday Facts and Figures, which highlight some of the barriers and issues we face. It offers community building and network opportunities, which are global, as well as educational conferences and the Key Change Pledge. If you haven't already heard of the Key Change Pledge, the Key Change Pledge invites organisations across the music industry to sign up to at least 50% gender representation for women and gender diverse individuals in one or more areas of their work. In 2022, 600 organisations had signed up. Out of the 613 UK organisations, we have 222 signatories, 41 out of 613 in Canada, and 57 from 613 organisations in Germany. So we need to get more organisations to sign up to this pledge, both here in the UK and internationally. If you're an organisation who is interested in signing up, then please either contact myself or Gabby and we can point you in the right direction. I've also left the Key Change email below, so please do go check them out. They are absolutely fantastic. Another good ally for the trans community is the F-List for Music, run by Vic Bain. Today, Vic has gone to the hard work of putting together International Trans Day of Visibility to give a platform to a range of trans and non-binary artists already on the F-List directory. If you've not already done so, then please do sign up to the F-List directory and check out the highlighted artists in the feeds throughout today. The F-List provide a directory of artists for women and underrepresented groups in the music industry, and they hold a research hour every month for those interested in doing any research around equality, diversity, and inclusion in the music industry. There's also a new initiative called the Emerging Artists Network for anyone aged between the ages of 16 and 24. The network will help provide funding and artist development, and there are also some fantastic events and opportunities to network and collaborate with other artists, as well as building a safe space for women and gender diverse artists where everyone is treated equally and respected. The website is also below, so please do go and check them out. They do a fantastic job of championing diversity and inclusion in the music industry. I've also left some resources in case any of you would like to go and check them out, or if you would like to speak to someone in confidence about any of the issues we've talked about today. There's some helplines for you, and there's some additional information for you to go and check online. Please feel free to go and check them out at any time, as this session is recorded and will be posted on the live website. I also wanted to say a massive thanks to John, Chris and Gabby and everyone at Live, as well as all the affiliated organisations for being so kind and supportive over the last 7 months. You've all been amazing and have made a conscious effort to include me and my community. I really respect you all. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to learn more about trans education and inclusion in the music industry. Your support is very much appreciated. I also have a podcast, which you can go and check out, Music Industry Insights Worldwide, which covers topics around equality and diversity in the music industry. And if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask me now. And if anyone would like to contact me privately, my details are also there too. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Saskia. That was really amazing. I'm sure everyone can agree and see all the love you're getting in the chat there. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. It makes so much difference to our industry if we're all taking part and evolving together. But yes, thank you, Saskia, once again. If anyone has any questions, please do put your hand up, and we've got a couple of minutes. If anyone does have any questions. If not, you've got all the resources and Saskia's emails and, Chris, there we go.
Hiya. Just since we've got a moment, Saskia, if one thing the live music industry can do to be more helpful, what would it be?
I think it's to try and support trans and non-binary musicians at going to events and safety around events, attending those events. I think it's really important to try and understand more about what those barriers and issues are, because I think there are some issues there and we are trying to address those. But I think that's the main concern I have at the moment, is trying to make it more inclusive and safe for trans artists going to events, or even just attending an event for somebody else. Great question. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
That's good. I must have covered everything then. If no,
it was very thorough, but really, really amazing. If there's no more questions, Chris, got another question?
No, mate, I'm done for one.
I'm definitely going to take this away and kind of take it in more and read over all the resources and dig in a bit more as to what we can do at live, especially. But yes, Saskia, obviously you sit on our workforce group. So if anyone was interested in our live workforce group, which is our subgroup, which focuses on equality, diversity, inclusion, as well as wellbeing, please do get in touch with me. I'll just pop my email into the chat here. We work towards bettering the workforce across the whole of the industry. And yes, so I'll put my email there.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, please do.
Thanks. Sorry, I wasn't sure. It's brilliant. Really enjoyed that. I'm particularly interested in safety. So that last remark by Chris and your reply really resonated. What I'd like to know is, how do you have any research as to how unsafe people feel within the trans community when going out? Because if the industry, the music industry and the parlous state we're in is to improve, then we need to get more people going out and enjoying themselves all the time. But anyway, sorry, answer the question, please.
I agree with you, Ian. I think the best answer I can give you to that one is last year, YouGov and Stonewall had some research that was taking place, and 66% of the trans community had experienced hate crime in that year. So that has actually risen from the year before. So if you look at that, just off a hate crime statistics, that some people just get attacked verbally or physically, just walking down the street for being themselves. And I think that's another thing that we have to try and address is some of those issues as well around safety and inclusion, and making sure that people feel safe on the streets, especially in London, from where I'm from. It's been a bit of a nightmare, but I think more people are aware of some of the issues, and we're trying to work towards making it a safer place. So thank you for that question.
Saskia, you've got two more people. We've got Aline. Is that right?
Hi. So good to see you. That was so great. Thank you so much. So I'm thinking wondering if you have any resources that you could point me to in terms of mental health, because as you know, I'm working towards something on that. And it would be actually great to have some resources that, people can go to from the trans community, where they can actually feel understood and supported properly, because, I also know that that's a huge issue. So do you have any suggestions or anything that you can share?
Actually have some, and I know I have your email, so I will share those with you. And I know there's some information on stats for mental health, and I think it's 1 in 5 of the trans community are suffering from mental health at the moment. But I know mental health is a big thing for everyone in the industry, but especially for the trans community, with the stigma, discrimination, and obviously transitioning. It can cause lots of additional kind of issues around your mental health. So I will send you some documents over, definitely 100%. And thank you for such an important topic. And I totally agree. I'll send you some resources, and I'll also send Gabby some resources too on the mental health stuff, so we can have that on the live website. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, love.
Perfect. Super quick last question from Sharice, because I know we've just run over, but go for it.
It's not a question. It's just to say, Saskia, thank you so much. Yeah. And Saskia, you are a champion. I feel like the stats, us being really evidence-based as Black Lives in Music, you came correct, everything, you brought evidence-based research, and it's so important that we work really hard together in this industry to change some of the harrowing points that we saw today. I want to say, and this is not a pitch, Saskia, or to take away from what you're doing, we're doing a piece on research, a piece of research on bullying and harassment in the industry. And one of our key parts is dealing with people who identify as trans. Excuse me, I'm going to go through your terminology properly. That was my favourite part. So I'm going to learn. But that is the key part. And I'm upset that I haven't come to you beforehand. So our research team will be coming to you, Saskia, to ensure that we make sure we come correct and that's right. So for what Ian said in terms of what does safety look like, we're trying to tackle that in our research. We want more research. We want to be a part of what you're doing, Saskia. We want to be a part of what you're doing. You're a leader in this. So we want to do what we can to support you to go forward. And I just want to say it's about you, Saskia, and your work. So thank you very much for being brave and doing this. We really applaud you and appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And likewise, I'd love to work alongside you guys, because you lot do an amazing job. And yeah, it means so much to me. And like we said, if we actually look at trans women that are Black, they actually face even harder than some of us lighter skinned trans women. So that also has to be taken into account with these intersections. Thank you so much. It means so much to me, all of your support. Thank you for taking the time out to learn more. And I appreciate all of you so, so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to have to finish here, I'm afraid. So any further questions, please do get in touch with Saskia or myself direct. And yes, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Saskia, again. Amazing, amazing session. And I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks.
See you.
That's amazing. Do you want me to stay on, Gabby, while everyone's gone?
I'll call you on WhatsApp. Bye, everyone.